Hello, and thank you for joining me again on yet another exciting adventure into the world of World of Warcraft. I had a lot of people complain on my previous videos about me talking bad about Mastery. And I'm going to tell you, I'm explaining why Mastery is not as useful as a lot of people think it is, by using a spreadsheet that I kind of whipped up. I'm going to if you want to make your own spreadsheet, this will also kind of guide you on how to do that also. This is a good Mage PvP spreadsheet that I just kind of came up with, sort of. It's missing things like haste, and I think that's the only thing it's missing, really, haste and maybe some int stuff, but other than that, it's got what you need, as long as you're trying to compare Mastery and Crit, which is what you'll end up doing at some point anyway. You're really not going to gem or enchant or reforge for haste, like, ever, really. But we'll start from the left and go over towards the right here. First off, we got our base numbers. These are kind of like our constants that we're going to be using. First off is 25,000 is what we're going to assume that your attack is going to be doing. We'll assume we're doing just Frostbolts, and each one's doing a base of around 25,000. We'll assume that our base crit chance is 17.41, and our mastery is at 11.59 points. I'm basing that off of something someone sent me. This character someone told me to look at, and I'm looking at this is someone who has decent PvP ratings. Not the best, but not terrible either. So that's what we're going to be basing it off of. Yeah, there we go. So, as you can see, 17.41 crit and 11.59 mastery. I think that's a really bad idea, but we'll see how it works out with the actual numbers. Here we have actual converting of crit rating to actual crit. So if we say that the base crit is 17.41, we take that number, multiply it by 179, which is roughly how much crit rating per point. It's actually 179.1, I think, per point of actual crit. So 179 times 17.41 gives us, you need 3,116 crit rating. As far as mastery goes, same thing. Mastery rating is actually a little bit more. It's 179.2 or 179.8. I don't remember. It's slightly higher than crit, but not as much. It's not that big of a deal that we're off by like 0.1 point. It's no big deal. We're not getting that serious about it. As far as how we do the actual damage calculations, we're going to be basing it off of 5 hits for each iteration that we're doing, and we'll be doing 5 rounds. That we'll be doing 5 rounds of 5 iterations of 5 hits. So, in other words, you're doing 5 times 5, which is 25, times 5 of these, which is 125 hits. We're basing it off of 125 hits total, and how much damage that gives us at the end, which is a pretty good chunk of data. The way we actually do that is we do an if statement to see if it crit. Our condition to check if it crit is going to be these random numbers here. They're basically doing a random number between 100 and 0. It says 101 because if you only do 100, it'll never give you 100. It'll always give you 99 at the most. So if you do 101, it gives you between 0 and 100. And there's an int here to change it into an integer, otherwise it'll show up as a decimal, and really, again, not interested in decimals, just want the whole number. What we do is we say that B5, which is the actual crit chance, is going to be, if that's greater than or equal to this number here, which is pretty much how the system works. They generate a number between 0 and 100, and if your crit chance is equal to or higher than that number, then you're able to crit. If the number is higher than your crit chance, then you don't crit. That's how that works, basically. Also, I did forget to mention, the actual crit is basically you get +3 to your base crit from a talent. I think it's piercing, something like that. And then shatter gives you triple your normal crit. So basically we're taking 17.41 plus 3 times 3. That gives us 61.23. As for actual mastery, each point of mastery is 2.5% more damage. So since we have 11.59 points, we get 28% more damage, which isn't too bad. I mean, it works out good, but again, it only works against frozen targets, so that's what kind of makes it not as great. But we'll move on from there. Back to the actual damage. So pretty much what this says is if it crits, it does the stuff between this first two commas, which is it takes the damage, multiplies it by 2, and then it adds the damage times the it adds the damage to the damage you get from the mastery. So it would be damage times the mastery percentage, which is 25% more, or 28.98% more damage, and divides that by 100, because if you didn't divide it by 100, it would be not a percentage, it would be, you know, a really high, stupid number that's wrong. The actual amount you have to divide by 100. So if you don't understand that, take a math class. But that's how that works. If it's not, if you didn't crit, then it's just going to be the normal damage plus the mastery damage. Fair enough? Okay. So there's how that works. There's under the hood. For not frozen targets, we're basically doing the exact same thing. I'm going to have to tweak this a little bit because I didn't take into account it's using the wrong crit value. It should be using this crit value, which is the base crit, not the actual, not the crit that's defined later. So there's that. Fixing spreadsheets is fun. Okay, fantastic. Oh man, oh man. Okay, so there we go. We got that ready to work or something. Dear God, what has my life become? Okay, so for some reason I just think this looks weird, but at any rate, you know, this one's actually not working right, because this is supposed to be like, this should be higher than, oh, B3, that's why. I'm dumb. I'm dumb, I'm dumb, I'm dumb. I'm dumb, so dumb, so dumb. So very dumb, so very dumb, so very dumb. There we go, now that's alright. And I think these should all be B5, yeah, these are all good. Okay, so everything, spreadsheet's fixed, everything's working good. Alright, so now, I'm also going to format this, by the way, to display a whole number and not just a decimal, because I fucking hate decimals. Alright, great, fantastic. So, how does this work? Well, basically, out of these 5 hits, we're going to come up with the total damage, which is 236,219. And I'm going to enter this into each box. And after I enter it, it's going to give me a new number. And I just keep entering the numbers until I fucking die of boredom. Or until everything's filled out, whichever comes first. I know this isn't exciting, so if you want to just skip to the end results of this, go ahead. I'm actually just doing this to illustrate that I am actually doing the numbers properly. I'm not just making them up and letting you think that I did it right, but I didn't. You know, like, I'm not trying to be biased about this at all. I'm actually searching for the truth, even though I've already done this and I already know what the truth is. But yeah, we'll all find out in some way or another. 286-219, 186-219. You know, you can make a song out of this and kind of make it not suck as much. 261-219, 236-219, 236-219, 261-219, 236-219. Great. All right. So now that I've got all of those entered in, the total from each round is added together in this down here, and we ended up with 5.6 million, roughly. So that's not too bad. That's a fairly good chunk of damage from 125 attacks. So from there, now what do we want to do? Well, now we want to see what it would be like if we just biased crit as opposed to mastery. So let's say we had the maximum amount of crit, which would be about 30. We'll give you pretty much a 100% chance to crit. It's not going to give you a 100% chance to crit. I'll give you 99. You'd need 31, but that'd be pretty damn hard to get anyway. And then as far as mastery, we'll say we really barely have any. We'll say we have 5 points. I mean, you get a base of like 3, so we'll say that, sure, you got about 5 from what's left over from your gear. That's fairly realistic. So, here we go. 265, 625. 265, 625. 265, 625. Again, I'm getting the number from right here. 265, 625, 265, 625. What you're going to notice here is that these numbers are all basically going to be the exact same. And the reason for that, well, here's a 1. Reason for that is because you're rarely not going to, you're really going to not quit, or you're rarely going to not crit. Yes, when you have 99% chance to crit. So what you're going to see is pretty much consistent damage, which is the benefit of having more crit. You pretty much know right about how much damage you're going to be doing every time. When it's based on mastery, as you looked at above, you have quite a lot of variance in there. And that's what makes having crit a bit stronger. However, it's unlikely that you're going to end up with enough crit, or enough crit points to actually get that high of crit. So I'm going to light up a cigarette, because that was like sex. Not really. But, oh yeah, that's good. But, yeah, so as we can see, from stacking crit over mastery, you did get a lot more damage. Actually, a lot more damage. You got about 10 or a million more damage than you did from just having the mastery. And each iteration was actually larger than the mastery one. Every single one was larger than this, and it was a consistent number for the most part. So that's why crit's actually a bit better. But you're asking now, well, is there some way to get even higher? Like, how is it possible to get more damage? Well, I'm about to show you how. Let's go back to this guy and see how we can improve their damage without, getting to 30% crit, which is pretty damn hard to do. In order to get a real high amount of crit, or how to balance things out, we got to kind of look at how he reforged. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pull out my handy dandy calculator. Calc. There we are. Calculator. Okay. So now I got my handy calculator out. We're going to look at what he reforged here. So we're going to assume that instead of having mastery, he reforged his mastery to crit. So in other words, we're going to divide all of his mastery by 2, and we're going to multiply by 2. We're going to, I'll explain it as we go. So pretty much mastery 227 divided by 2 gives me 113.5. We're going to store that in memory. Calculating is fun. Okay, so now we got mastery rating here. Is this even? It is. Okay. So we got mastery rating here. We're going to take 194 divided by 2 equals 97. Add that to memory. Now we've got 210, so that's good. Now we've got 160 mastery rating, so I can just do that off my head. That's fucking 290.25, store that. And then we got, oh, this is a different case. We're going to need to subtract 98 from 98. Instead, well, actually just add 98 in this case, so plus 98. This one we're going to add 80. This one we're going to do nothing. This one we do nothing. This one, and also notice he didn't actually reforge all of his crit, so that's smart of him. Her, whoever it is. Now if we take half of 321, so let's clear this out and store this in the memory now. So 321 divided by 2 gives me that. Add that to the memory. There we go. We've also got okay, we'll add 64 more crit rating. Boom. And we'll add 98 more crit. Actually, never mind, that's haste, so that doesn't count. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That accounts for all of it. You'll notice he didn't really do it too often where he turned crit into mastery, which is not a big deal. It's pretty cool. So 693 is the number we ended up with here. You just shut the hell up, calculator. Okay, so we ended up with 693. So what we need to do is figure out how many points of mastery we'll get from 693. So to do that, of course, we take 693 divided by 190 or 179, and an equal sign would help. So there we go. We got 3% more crit, basically, or 3.8% more crit. So instead of the, what did they have before? 17.41%. Instead of the 17.41%, we're going to do 17.41 plus 3.87. And I really need to actually start putting equal signs in some places. So there we go. Now he's got 21.28. And as far as mastery, well, we actually changed not that much. Let's see, back to the handy dandy calculator again. We've got minus 194, or actually 194 divided by 2. Store that. I know, this is fun. You can skip to the end if you want to. Plus 80. Right now I'm just figuring out how much mastery exactly that we're losing so that we can be accurate as possible. Alright, plus another 80. Dun, dun, dun. And then is there a memory store? Because I don't know how to divide 321 divided by 2 without sucking at it. So memory plus. Oh shit. Son of a bitch. Alright, plus 80, plus 98, plus 80. This is where it gets tricky again. Let's see, 194 divided by 2. Memory plus, memory recall, and another one. So another big number. Clear, restore. See, 227 divided by 2. Add that. Memory recall 629. So it looks like that was about it, actually. Oh, wait, no, we're going to leave that as it is. So yeah, basically we lost 629 points of mastery. So 629 divided by 179 and the equal, oh you bastard, and the equal sign. We lost 3.51 points of mastery essentially. So we're going to take his initial 11.59, 11.59 minus 3.51, and that gives us 8 mastery. So now let's find out, with this more balanced approach, what the actual damage is going to do is. I'm going to hit F9 a bunch of times and look at the screen, and we've got 250, 250. So 250, 250, 200, 250, 225, 250, 275, 250, 250, 250, 250, 250, 275, 250, 250, 250, 200, 250, 225, 250, and 275, 250, 225, 250, 250, 250, 250, 250, 200, 250, 250, 250. I know I screwed one up here, but I'll go back to it. 200, 250, 225, 250, 250, 250, 250, 250, 250, 250, 225, 250, 200, 250, 250, 250, 225, 250. And I'm going to fix this real quick. 225, 250, like the other ones, as you can see. And we end up with a little bit higher damage than he did by stacking mastery. So I think by the numbers, this pretty much proved that crit is more useful than mastery. And to further illustrate that point, go ahead and skip through I'm just going to edit this out, actually. I'm not even going to give it the option. I'm just going to edit it out, but I'm going to do the exact same thing, except I'm going to be using the not frozen numbers. So just finished doing the balanced one, the damage. Overall, we got 3,850,000. So next I'll go on to the crit biased. I'm going to switch the crit back to 30% and the mastery to 5, which is, I'm pretty sure, what it was before, so not like it really matters because mastery doesn't matter in this case, but obviously I think we should expect to see crit bias, or the crit damage being the highest yet again, but we'll see. So here comes the edit. Alright, and here we have the final numbers for total crit, 4 million, which is a bit higher than the balanced one, and now we're going to figure out what the mastery is going to be, with her base crit of, again, 17.41. 17.41, and here comes another edit. Alright, so now not frozen mastery biased is shown here as well. Wouldn't expect it to be that much higher than with the balanced, but balanced still beats it by about 150,000, so it's not too bad. One thing that we can see for sure is that attacking targets that aren't frozen pretty much does give you a third less damage, which makes perfect sense, right? I mean, we're using times 3, so a third less damage, there you go. So, I mean, the balanced spec, or the balanced approach to having more crit than mastery, you had 5.9 million. If you gemmed and reforged for all mastery, then turns out you get 5.6 million, which is 0.3 million less than balanced. And if you manage to get 30% crit, then you end up with right about 1 million more than the other ones. What does this mean in the long run? Well, essentially, the more crit you have, the more consistent your actual damage is going to be. I mean, as you can see, having a lot of mastery, like this person had, is not really saving them, not really helping them out all that much. The highest they're going to do for hits is about 57,244, but the lowest they're going to do is 32,244. That's a good hit, but it's not that great. As opposed to if you went to our other number, which was something like, I'm going to roughly do this, but it was about 21 and 8, right? You end up with 55,000 and 30,000. But more often than not, you're going to get 55,000 instead of the 30,000, as you can clearly see here. And obviously if you had 30% crit and 5 mastery, then yeah, you could get huge hits constantly. So at the end of the day, crit is going to be the better stat, and if you want to keep arguing about it, go ahead. It's just that I've just kind of proved it, and I can show you the numbers. I just did. So crit's better than mastery. Just kind of deal with it. But you do have to keep in mind that balancing it is good, because obviously if you have really high crit and really low mastery, you're not going to do that much damage total. I mean, yeah, you're always going to have 253,000 total here. As you can see, 253,000 total. Pretty constant. But, as with the one person's spec, 17.41 and 11.59, you do actually get higher damage depending on if you do crit. So it's just a matter of balancing things out properly and not stacking something just because you have to stack it. Obviously, crit's going to be your better option here, because it takes a few less points in crit to actually get a percentage of crit, whereas mastery, you need a few more points in mastery, and it's not going to do as much as the crit, because you have to keep in mind that crit works regardless of whether or not the target's frozen, and on top of that, the crit chance, your talents that affect crit are based on your crit rating. 3 times 10 is only 30. So that's not a big deal, but 3 times 30 is 90. And that's freaking huge. So strike a good balance, but bias yourself a little bit more towards crit is the end result here. Thanks for watching and sitting through this boredom, and I hope I answered any of your questions. If you have more questions, feel free, and if you'd like to have a copy of the spreadsheet, let me know. I can probably send one out to you. But have a good one, and see you around.